your holy shift time. And I want to ask you if you have been waiting to get motivated, or you just can't turn on the creative juices and you're wondering why you're not motivated. This episode is just for you, because I know what it feels like to beat yourself up and procrastinate and go into that self-judgment day when you just can't get yourself going. And I have a few ideas about that. So just remember, motivation it's kind of like confidence. It's not something you can just turn on and have at your beck and call. It isn't action driven like inspiration, or really having a purpose, or wanting to do something more than the fear that's telling you that you can't. And let's face it, we're not good without purpose. We need to be driven, and unfortunately it is just the way that we're wired, that we have a negativity bias, that we're more likely to look for the negatives and all the reasons and all the visible proof why we shouldn't do something. And we make excuses about it. So instead of waiting to get motivated, or waiting until you're confident enough to do something, what if you sort of set up your day to actually be responsible, to show up in a place where you're accountable to yourself? I think we are so good at betraying ourselves, and when we're in that place of denying change, it terrifies us, and we want to sort of maintain this external illusion that everything's fine, that everything can stay the same. And I think it's our biggest downfall. And that's where it's so important to have support, because when someone can name it for us, and names the betrayal, tells us to stop self-shredding, everything just starts to unravel, and we need the shadow. We need the shadow to support us in doing that, to take radical responsibility for our actions, and do the things that we need, even though we're afraid. And the first thing we need to do, and so many of my clients I know don't know what they want. They've spent so long in roles and in performance and in proving themselves, because most of us don't think we're enough. We don't believe that we're enough, and that we have to do more and be more. And that's kind of the reality that we live in. So the holy shift for today is, first of all, get really clear, do an inventory on what it is that you really want. We're 6 months into a new year. And, time is ticking. Time waits for no man or no woman, and we have to be committed to use this precious time that we have to our advantage. And we can't do that if we're foggy and vague. And I know this one really well, because I'm a Gemini and I have a disorganized attachment. And yes, there are all the things that I identify with. I don't use it as an excuse anymore. I use it as wisdom, as mastery, to notice when those patterns are coming up, to notice when I'm slipping back into destructive ways of being, or old habits that actually are just giving me more fuel, adding more fuel to the fire to not show up and do the work. So first of all, get really clear on what it is that you want. I think it's important that we have a vision, and that we have to have this mindset that we care about ourselves as much as we care about our children, and about the things the causes that we put our time and attention in, and to nurturing our friendships. When did you last nurture yourself? When did you last spend time getting to know what matters and moves you? And I'd love to know in the comments. So drop that in the comments below. And instead of waiting to be motivated, you'll be waiting a very, very long time. And it'll always fail you when you want it. So what if instead you just take one small step, commit to do one thing differently that's been bothering you for a long time, and that you know that if you keep on doing it, it's going to end up being a big thing that you have to sort out. And don't go too far out or too big, because that's impossible and it just overwhelms our system. The nervous system likes predictability. It wants to stay in the familiar, which is why, if we're in that survival mode of Maslow's theory, we can't create, we can't imagine, we can't vision anything more than what we're living in that lower rung, in that root chakra of, are my basic needs being met? And if they're not, very difficult to create anything greater than that. So being able to vision what your life would be like, what would change, how would the people around you benefit from you being in your truth, from you really being the best version of yourself, in that your dogs and cats know you to be, and the patience that I spoke of yesterday. So just for today, just change one small thing. This is why I call these holy shifts, because inch by inch is a cinch, yard by yard is hard. And we set ourselves up to fail when we put things too far out in front of us. And if they're too big, like if you want to be earning 10K a month, you need to chunk that down into a realistic expectation of what would I need to action, what would I need to commit to, what would I need to learn, who would I need to bring in for support, and what would that look like in small chunks of days, and how many clients you'd need to serve, or what would you need to do on a daily basis? Because when you break it down, all of a sudden your brain, who's running the show from a fear-driven place of, oh my gosh, I don't want to fail, I don't want to be rejected, I don't want to be ridiculed and shamed, can then be quiet, because you're giving your brain visible proof of that it is completely doable. And then you need to set yourself the systems and the structures. Again, I'm not very good at systems and structures, and I've had to really learn and practice and master that. And it's an ongoing process. There are days that I fall down. There's days that I'm so way off what I wanted to do in the day and what I wanted to achieve. And I have to remind myself to just get back up on the horse. Just because you fall off, they always say that if you fall off a horse, get straight back up. And there's a reason for that, because when you get back up, you realize it's a lot more terrifying being on the ground where you could be trampled by a horse than it is to be on the back of a horse. And as I said, if you don't set yourself out a vision, a schedule, some really good stresses, you're going to just keep repeating the same thing over and over again. So you need that daily structure and routine, first for your sanity, and also so that you can actually see in physical proof of, okay, there's my commitment. Make that a contract to yourself. You're going to just go back into the excuse, or back into all the reasons and justifications that are not true, and prove your nervous system right, prove your brain right, prove your little ego right, which wants things to be predictable and safe and familiar. So, it can be as simple as just getting up at the same time every day and sticking to it. We all know that without good sleep, we're not focusing at our optimal. Our circadian rhythm gets kicked out, and it takes us, the older we get, I've noticed that it takes me so much longer to recover. If I'm, do a couple of 3 or 4 a.m.ers and then expect to be awake at 5 o'clock, it's never going to happen, But it doesn't mean just because it's happened once that it's going to happen again, unless unless you let that happen. And I know it's easy to slip. This is why it's called a habit. And we've got to lay down new neural pathways on our brain. And some people say it takes 30 days to change a habit. I think it depends on your predisposition, your survival patterns of adaptation, your coping patterns. But for me, it's more like 40 or 50 days of consistent action. So another example is I have a lot of people going through my the No Diet, Ending the Weight of Judgment, which is a weight loss program that didn't start off as a weight loss program, but that was sort of a beautiful side effect of people that were going through this program, to stop self-shredding, to stop self-sabotaging themselves. And they always laugh when I say, stop saying to your body, I'm going on a diet today, because your body hears die and it thinks you want to kill it. And that's why, no surprises that you suddenly are hoovering every single bit of food in the fridge and in your store cupboard the day before you have committed to start your diet. Don't eliminate your body's choice, because that feels like survival. Your body goes into, oh my gosh, there's a famine coming. I better eat. I better, restore and stock up on my fat cells so that I can see myself through this long winter. So forget losing weight if that's a priority for you right now. Tap into how you will feel if you were lighter. And one way to do that, one baby little shift, is maybe you commit to cutting out sugar, or you stop drinking sodas like Coca-Cola and fizzy drinks that have sugar in it, and you just start drinking beautiful, pure water that you have blessed with, love and gratitude. Charge your water, make a ritual out of it, and drink water for 30 days. And you'll start to see, that all of a sudden you feel lighter. The brain fog has disappeared. You just feel more inspired. You're able to get up earlier. You're not lethargic. You're not getting headaches because your body's screaming at you to drink more water. And if you fall off, get back up, get back on it. The sooner you do this, the less pain and suffering there is in rewiring those neural pathways on your brain. And for me, that was getting back into the ritual. I love to call these holy shifts my rituals, my anchors for the day that make sure that I start the day strong, of getting up, and the first thing that I do before I even wash my face is I celery juice, because I know how much it supports my body, getting my lymph moving and good elimination going, and just cleansing out and detoxing my body. And it takes 2 minutes to turn the juicer on. And then I go wash my face and brush my teeth and sit down. And I've committed to meditate. So the first day it was 10 minutes. The next day it was 15, until I grew my capacity to be able to sit in that space of imagining, really visualizing my future desires as already in the now. That is what meditation is. And now it's an hour, and it's ease, and it's grace, and it's powerful, because then I can get on with my day and start to have really good stress in my body to achieve everything that I want to achieve. Another great way to do that is stop setting deadlines for yourself. Just the idea, again, if you think about the frequency or the vibration of the words that we're using, we're spelling, this is alchemy. Your body hears deadlines, and again, your nervous system's on hyper alert, looking for something that's going to kill it. So, especially if you're one of those people like I used to be, where I do things on the 11th hour. I knew something was coming, and yet there was something that I loved. And this is another way to do a truth inventory on yourself, is look at, what do you love? about this thing? You know, what do you love about leaving things to the last minute? And for me, it was this addiction to suffering that I had to lament, and I had to make it as painful as possible in order for me to believe that whatever I was creating had some value in it. You know, it's like the starving artist syndrome. So, you know, give up making deadlines and set yourself realistic targets. Aim for it. And so I love about a target, if you think about a dartboard, and that you're an archer, or you're stretching back the bow, and you let go of the arrow, you get to have multiple arrows. You get to keep shifting your aim, resetting your internal GPS to make sure that you're getting what you want. So start setting targets. And doesn't that just feel lighter just thinking about it? I love for you to know. I would love to know what your comments, you know, what you're thinking about as you're listening to me speak about this. But just give up deadlines and stop waiting for motivation. Stop waiting for motivation. I think that really was what was calling me to speak to today, because I needed a good kick in my ass. You know, the more that you repeat this daily, consistently, the one habit, then you can add in another habit, and then you can add in another habit, which is why holy shifts are small, tiny changes, little cures for the suffering in your life, right? For the pain in your life, that if you do them long enough, because they have huge impact, and the ripple effect goes out to all areas of your life, your body, your business, your relationships, and it affects the people that are around you as well. It inspires them to do better. So give your mind a job, and be very genuine about what that is, and then aim at the target. Set yourself to see what you need to do, and the world will meet you there. You know, the universe will manifest and support you. And just remember that, you know, not all ruptures are yours to repair. So, you know, if you just think that you do 100 tiny little holy shifts and you act them out in the span of your lifetime, if you constantly keep going back to why you're doing what you're doing, you know, because it has meaning, it gives your life a sense of purpose. We need purpose as a driver to do better in the world. And not everything is yours to do either. So stay in your own lane. You know, put effort into your life, and aim for things from a place of inspiration and co-creation, and not motivation and waiting for confidence and waiting to be motivated by an external force. It just never works. And you know, I think this is the beautiful part about being sovereign, is taking responsibility for your mistakes, the things that you've taken that haven't worked in your life, and learning from it, getting the value and the wisdom from your past, so that your brain can stop going into the past and obsessively, compulsively worrying, which is just prayer in reverse, because you can't change the past. But taking the wisdom from it so that you do better in your future, right? This is what's so powerful about futuring. Using your imagination, imagining it as if it was already here in your daily meditations and in your daily rituals, to bring spirituality into the ordinary, to see the beauty in everything, including your mistakes, including the places where you have perhaps failed, right? Where perhaps you have betrayed yourself, where you've let yourself down. And in so doing, you know, looking at what agreements do you need to renew with yourself, and you have to be really truthful with yourself in how you're living and what you're creating, and you know how it's affecting not only you and your soul and your heart, but how it's affecting your body and how it's affecting other people in your life that you love. So start looking for the visible proof of why not, right? Put the I am back into impossible for another way of looking at it. It's, we know that we are wired to look for negativity. The negativity bias is like Velcro to our fearful shadow parts. So bring light into that, and be self-authored. Know that the power of choice is yours. This is the difference between motivation and inspiration. You get to choose and choose and choose and choose again. And that's the incentive that your nervous system needs. That's where we get that dopamine hit. And is to make the fear of not letting yourself down, the fear of what will happen if you don't change the habits that are actually not your best friend right now, has to be bigger than your fear of change. So don't be vague and foggy about this. Establish what you want and keep aiming for the target, and do an inventory on what you're doing. Because when you know why you're doing what you're doing, the how shows up with ease and grace and synchronicity. So that's it for today. As I said, I'd love to know in the comments what part of this supported you, and let me know. What are you struggling with right now? What would you like me to speak more to over the next couple of days? Because I'm committed to do better, to be in service, not of self and how I'm showing up in the world, but more importantly, to support you on your journey to transform through trauma by getting the wisdom out of why what you chose has led you to this path that you're on, where you are in service to others through your story, not from making the stories part of the reason why you're stuck in the past. So I'd love to know in the comments, and I love you, I see you, I honor you, and one tiny shift at a time, start changing those habits. I love you. Bye.